Shields up, Ironbreakers. Rurikhan here, coming at you with another episode of the Kast. And today I'm here with BltzZ to talk about Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and just the Final Fantasy universe as a whole, basically. How you doing, BltzZ?
Doing well, man. Thank you for having me on here.
Thank you for making the time. So let me tell you where I'm coming from with this, because I'm a complete Final Fantasy VII noob for all intents and purposes. The first Final Fantasy I ever played was actually Final Fantasy VIII. God knows how long ago. A French cousin of mine actually showed it to me. And since then, the next one that I played was 15. And I finished 15. I never finished 8. I played a decent chunk of it, never finished it. I finished 15, and then I think the next one that I played was 14, which is my favorite one. Since then, I've also played 7 Remake, but that's kind of like my Final Fantasy background, so to speak. But I definitely want to jump into Rebirth a whole lot, because I really enjoyed the remake. But I'm curious, first of all, about you. When did you get started with content creation?
I actually, so back in 2009, 2010, I started to consume a lot of gaming YouTube channels, specifically mostly like Call of Duty related stuff. I was really into that whole thing back in the day, and I just thought it was the coolest thing ever. Yo, these guys are making these amazing gameplay videos that I have the same footage of. I just didn't know how to apply it. I was also in my own head, so I never really did it. I had all the equipment for the most part. I had an Elgato and stuff back. I got one in 2012, 2013 ish. But I just never committed to it. It wasn't until I started watching Maximilian Dude in 2013 consistently, because I had seen his videos back in 2011, back when he was doing Marvel vs. Capcom stuff, because I sucked ass at that game. So I was I need to watch videos on how to get better at this. And he was really entertaining, but I didn't really start following until 2013, when he started doing Injustice videos. And instead of doing COD, I was like, you know what? I kind of want to do fighting games. This feels like more fun. COD has a really oversaturated market, even back then. Yeah. And I really loosely did things. I would upload gameplay matches of Smash and Injustice and randomly Yu-Gi-Oh.
That's great for the algorithm when you just upload whatever you feel like at the time. YouTube loves that.
Dude, I got copyrighted recently from a Smash Wii U video that I uploaded back in, how long ago that was. I don't know what Nintendo's problem is. It was for the Kirby theme song on one of the stages.
Sometimes they're kind of weird about that stuff. It's it's annoying. But interesting.
Yeah.
So you actually got started consuming YouTube through Call of Duty. I wouldn't expect that. So how did you do the transition to Final Fantasy? Because I feel like most of the content that I've seen on your channel recently has definitely been Final Fantasy.
Oh, for sure, dude. So as I kept doing fighting games, a lot of great games would come out, Mortal Kombat 11, Dragon Ball FighterZ, Smash Ultimate. And I had videos for those that would do extremely well and still have very high view counts. I just had an issue with not being able to retain a community and not know if I had a video go viral, I wouldn't really know how to I wasn't streaming then too, so I just felt I would upload a video, it would really pop off, and then the next one wouldn't do as well, and I was really confused on the whole thing. And I honestly couldn't really figure it out until 2020, when Final Fantasy VII is my favorite game of all time, and when the remake came out, I started playing it, and I was like, whoa, this game is like a fighting game. When you finally get all 3 teams together, all 3 members of your team together, it's like a versus fighting game. And I just felt like I need to make videos on this. I feel like I can, a lot of people at the time, because I had gotten the game pretty early. I would got it April 6th. The game came out April 10th. And I had gotten it from a game shop in Miami. This dude did not give
street date.
This dude was selling everything weeks before they even had it. And when I found him earlier, I would have gotten Final Fantasy 2 weeks before. But I started making content on character guides, how to play them, how to use them, and I did it like I normally do. I uploaded at 11:30 p.m. The worst possible time. I didn't really think anything of it. I was kind of mentally checked out of content creation, because the pandemic and stuff was going on then. Yeah. And I woke up and this video was the first, I guess, pop-off video that I had overnight, and it went from, it was a cloud guide, it went from like 400 views to 10,000, 12,000, and I was like, whoa, that's crazy. So followed it up, did a Barrett guide, same thing, followed it up, did a Tifa guide, did even better than both of those, and it just was like a mind-blowing to me. Like, I had never had back-to-back videos consecutively do that. So I was like, okay, people really like Final Fantasy VII on this channel, and I just kept up with it. It kept posting it, and sure enough, after a few months, my girlfriend's like, why don't you try streaming? And I'm like, I don't know, I was kind of like self-conscious, because you don't always, like, when you're early on making videos, you don't really talk like how you normally talk, and when you stream, you talk like how you normally talk. So I was like really in my head about sounding different. But when I streamed, I was like blown away, because like our first one had a huge community there, and I pretty much found my home of like content creation within Final Fantasy. And from then, we've been covering other stuff too. Like, I've been dabbling in Resident Evil, multiverses, even recently Granblue, and it's been a really fun journey, this content creation grind. And sure enough, 2020, for a lot of people, I know it was a negative, but for me, in my personal experience, it was a blessing, because it put me against the wall, because of like how the situation with the world. Like, I had lost my job around then, like most people did.
Yeah.
So I had no other outlet. I just like dove 100% into content creation from there, and it really just hit the ground running and never looked back since then.
That is usually because the community can identify when a content creator really enjoys the stuff that they're talking about. And it probably, like you said, Final Fantasy is like your favorite game of all time. So it very quickly must have resonated with the community from that aspect. And it's good. It's good. And I would expect that you had been around longer with a channel your size. So really good job. Like, it took me way longer to get where I am. Let me just, like, I've been making videos since 2007. I've been seeing your videos
for a long time.
Wait, you've seen my stuff?
I've been watching your content. I've not been subscribed until recently, but we play a lot of like similar games, right? Like, I play 14 as well, and I would see like various videos that you would upload, and it wasn't until like recently when you reached out, I'm like, whoa, no way. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's crazy how small the internet world is.
Yeah. But it's cool, because this has like been one of my favorite things to do since I think I started doing this in like 2021. Like, doing podcasts is like my favorite thing to do, because you can just hang out, talk about video games, and it's absolutely a blast. The algorithm gets kind of wonky with them, but I'm like, I don't care. Whatever. It's whatever. So
I always love the conversations.
Yeah. So tell me something. Final Fantasy VII. So you said that is one of your favorite games of all times. When did you first play it? The original one, I mean.
It would have been 1998 or 1999. So I'm lucky enough to have older cousins that have amazing taste in video games and media in general. Like, all the music, all the, like, I really have them to thank for it. My older cousin Kevin was visiting me, and he was like, hey, like, I got this game from my friend. It's called Final Fantasy. I'm pretty sure he told me Final Fantasy VII, but you know, when you're a kid, I must have been like 6 years old. You don't really hear that. You just hear, oh, okay, cool. You just hear the game. You don't hear the number. And so he came, and we played. He came on a Friday. He stayed over until Sunday, and we were like, yo, we're gonna try to beat this game. We got to the end of disc 1 on Sunday, right before he had to leave, and it was like one of the most emotional like goodbyes, I swear, because you know what, the big thing happens. I don't know if you ever heard of it, but a big thing happens at the end of disc 1, and it's just like, whoa, it's mind-blowing, especially as a child. It's pretty traumatizing. But he had to leave and go home, and I was just like, man, I really need to play this game. So back then we didn't have GameStop, at least yet, and so I asked my mom, I was like, Mom, I really want to get this game that Kev had. She's like, okay, like, we'll go get it. So back then we had a flea market that we used to go to called the Swap Shop in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And in the back of the flea market, they had this guy, and I'll never forget this guy. He's an older dude with a cowboy hat, and he had this like metal black cage all around him, and the games were like, yeah, here you go.
It was not me.
It was you. It was you all along. So his setup was kind of cool because like it always had a crowd of people just looking through the cage and like, oh look, like, that game's there, that game, I want that game. And you tell him what game you want and you point at it, right? Yeah. And he brings it around the side, you hand him the money and he hands you the game. It's kind of like a interesting transaction, but I can't describe the amount of like euphoria you get out of it. Like it's just, back then, like these kids these days will never experience that feeling.
Oh yeah, not anymore.
The hot sun in the flea market. But so we told him Final Fantasy, and you know, him not knowing any better, he gives us the newest Final Fantasy out at the time, which was Final Fantasy VIII.
Oh no,
bro. So I'm excited. I'm like, yo, I just got this game. I can't wait to play it. I don't even have a memory card. I'm just gonna like leave my PlayStation on every night. We get home, I boot up Final Fantasy VIII, and I remember seeing the intro, like Liber Fatale, I think the song is called, comes on, Fatale. And it's the beach, like the beach water is like coming in. I'm like, I don't remember any of this. This looks different, right? This is getting kind of concerning. And then I see like Cypher and Squall fighting, and then the game starts, and I'm like, okay, you know what? Maybe Kevin was a little bit further ahead in the story than me. Maybe I'll get up to that point where I remember from FF7. Dude, after an hour or two, my heart like sank, and I was terrified. I didn't even tell my mom until recently that we bought the wrong game because I was afraid she was gonna beat the crap out of me. You just made me spend $50 on a game we can't even return, because you couldn't return games to that shop. Of course,
it's the flea market. You can't return. There's no returns.
So I was so like scared, man. But like not for nothing, it worked out. A week later, Kevin came over again, and he was like, oh, I beat Final Fantasy VII. I see you have 8. Like I want to borrow 8 and play it. So he let me borrow 7. So I was like, okay, it worked out. So I ended up playing 7 from him. Did not have a memory card though, so
you had to leave the PlayStation on.
I kept leaving it on, and my mom till this day, she's the same. Like every time I go to her house, she doesn't like lights being left on that when they're not in use. So she's that mom that'll go walk around and just turn things off without telling you. So I'd play FF7 pretty late, leave it on. Oh shoot, is my notifications on?
It's fine, don't worry about it. Actually, it's cropped, so you can't even see it. It's fine.
Oh, okay, worked out. Yeah, and she would come into the room like while I'm like sleeping, turn it off. I wake up, it'd be off, and I got to a point where I started to get like kind of like practical with it, where I turned my PlayStation around to face like this cubby that it was in, so she wouldn't be able to see the light when it was on. But she would hear it, you know, and like still like turn it off, and I'm just like, Mom, come on, man. So I for months, bro, I would never get past the furthest point without a memory card I kept getting up to was between the church and Wall Market. Well, you haven't played 7 yet, right?
No, I've actually played
a remake.
I've played a decent. I didn't say this, but I did play a significant chunk of 7. I don't know exactly how much of it I played, because it was one of the situations where I played because I was super excited about the remake, right? I finished the remake and I was like, oh man, I want to go play the original now because apparently there's different things and whatnot. So I played it up until when you get your first vehicle. And then, and then I took a break, and I was not able to get back into it, because then I would jump in and I was like, oh, I don't know where I'm supposed to go. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I don't feel like playing this anymore. Right?
No, I fully understand.
But back in the day, like when we were younger, we would scrounge everything we could to like get wherever we were. Like you went through the beginning portions of that game like 50 friggin' times, I would imagine, with your mother turning off your console.
Yes, absolutely, man. I didn't get a memory card until we went to go visit an uncle, and my dad then told me to bring my PlayStation to like keep myself busy, you know, so they could chill, and I did my own thing. And at the time, they had just moved to Florida, so they only had one TV. They didn't really have much furniture, so like I'm sitting in the living room playing it, and when I went outside to play with the other kids, I would leave the PlayStation on, and my uncle's like, "Why?" Well, his wife was the same way as my mom. She kept, but she complained to it. She's like, "Why does he keep leaving it on?" And So my uncle was like, why do you keep leaving on? I told him, I don't have this memory card to like save the game, so I have to keep restarting it over and over again. And it takes forever to beat these games. So I don't want to like, I don't want to keep restarting. And he's like, well, where do you get a memory card? And I was like, I think they sell them at Walmart. So we went to Walmart and he bought me my first ever memory card for PS1.
Oh, it's cool. You're just like in the struggle trying to finish this game, and you can't friggin' finish it at all.
It's like, y'all got any save datas over there, bro?
So
it was rough back in the day, man.
So like you said, Final Fantasy VII, the original, is still your favorite Final Fantasy of all times. I mean, I assume you've played other Final Fantasy since then.
Yeah. I've played 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, pretty much everything after 6 except for 12 and 11. Oh, and 13. I didn't play 13. 13 came out when I was painfully obsessed with Call of Duty. so I wasn't consuming anything other than Call of Duty at that time.
Okay, well, my favorite Final Fantasy is 14. 14, to me, you can't beat 14. I love the story of that thing. Have you beaten Endwalker, just out of curiosity?
I haven't beaten Endwalker. So I have a weird relationship with 14. I'll be really quick with it. I love MMOs and grew up playing WoW and like all kinds of MMOs. So like me and my cousins, I'm always the last person to get into the MMO. So my cousins are always ahead of me. So I always find myself skipping content, and that's how you did it in WoW. Like you'd skip whatever, like you just want to get to the game and like play it. And I unfortunately did that my first ever time with Final Fantasy XIV. But when Shadowbringers came out, I was actually playing. It came at a perfect time. Like I was actually in the game playing it. It wasn't like I got into the expansion later and was trying to catch up. I actually went through the story in Shadowbringers and it blew my mind like how great it was. So I made an effort to go back through A Realm Reborn. And in my current playthrough, I can't really remember much of what happened in ARR, but I made it through, I think, halfway through Stormblood, and I need to like continue that going forward and get through like Shadowbringers, because I think I'm on 5.2. I just finished 5.2 in Shadowbringers, and I know 5.3 is like the big one. Well, going back through it, but the furthest I got in Shadowbringers was like 5.2, and at that point, because a lot of people are saying how 5.3 is amazing, it's really big, you should go back and play the other ones. So I'm like, okay. I'll do that. And it's been like this ongoing thing where I'm trying to like get through it. I just can't find the time, and it's been really rough. Like you said, to pick up back where you left off on.
It's rough to jump back into MMOs and stuff. I completely understand, but 14 just holds a special place in my heart. I always like bringing it up. But so. Since then, naturally, you've played the remake. I'm going to assume that you've enjoyed it. Like you said, you got really into it. You started making content for it. What did you think about the fact that, for starters, do you think that it should be called a remake?
They've actually went and kind of explained it recently. Like, it's not necessarily... The title remake isn't... It's like a double meaning for them. It's obviously like an eye catcher to make people think like, okay, this is a remake of of this old game that I really love. I'm going to get into that, but it's not necessarily about that. They're talking about the events that are occurring within the game itself. Like for example, like this one's called Rebirth, so it's the rebirth of a new world is what they're calling it. And the other one was like Sephiroth's like perspective. He's remaking, you know, he's like, no, I've been through this shit too many times, man. I'm changing this shit up right now. So it's pretty cool that they've gone ahead and said that. I honestly, in my personal opinion, I believe it's a sequel more than anything.
Yeah.
Because they're very aware of like things that the characters, the party themselves are aware of these events that have taken place previously. Like it's referencing the movie Advent Children, it's referencing the original game and various things that happen within that. So I fully on like in my I believe it's a sequel. The way that I look at it personally, and in general, I think that, I mean, I have a little bit of biasness towards the game because it kind of like helped me finally get into like this content creation sphere that I've been struggling to get into. But I think it's one of my honestly one of my favorite games of all time. And sure enough, the demo that came out for Rebirth recently, it's blowing my mind. It's blowing my mind like how much better they did everything. The movement, the combat, And they even announced today that, I don't know if you played the demo yet for Rebirth, have you?
Oh yeah, I have. I played it.
So you know how performance mode is. Sorry.
Yeah, I played it the day after they released it, I think.
Okay. And did you notice the blurriness with like performance mode and stuff?
Yeah, I mean, but then again, when it comes to that stuff, I'm always on the side of, okay, I'd rather it be blurry in 60 FPS than like, oh, super 4K 30. I'm like, whatever. If somebody wants to play 4K 30, you do you, man. I'm gonna play at 60 FPS because I prefer that whenever it's possible.
Same. I'm come from like the fighting game background, so like frames and responsiveness is like it trumps everything for me, you know. But thankfully, I mean, in a really amazing way, they announced at 10 a.m. my time, so like an hour and a half ago, they put out a tweet saying that they're updating the demo on the 21st, and with that update, not only are they extending the open world segment to where you can go and explore like the open world area of Junon, you actually can they're doing an update to fix the performance mode, because apparently Digital Foundry found out that the game is rendering at 1440p, but the post-processing is only rendering 1/4 of the quality. So
so they're actually rendering it at 1440. Oh, that's good. Because if we can get that level of performance at 1440, then we're pretty rock solid.
Yeah, we're cooking, and I'm excited to see it. I mean, next Wednesday that update's coming out, so it's going to be looking really beautiful a week from today.
Gonna stream that whole thing. So I'm curious about something, because this is something that naturally I feel like ideally, I kind of feel like even if you're a new player, the ideal way to play this is probably to go back and play the original. Do you feel like that is necessary, or do you think that these can be enjoyed without you actually playing the original to its fullest?
I think it can be enjoyed without playing the original. And I say this because there's a lot of new fans that came into the FF7 verse, I would say back in like 2020, because when Remake came out, it's a pandemic, everybody's trying to like get something to play and occupy the time. I saw nothing but a lot of comments of people like, yo, I've heard nothing but Final Fantasy. My first introduction to Final Fantasy was like through Kingdom Hearts. I've never played any of them before, people are saying. And they jumped into Remake and they absolutely love it. And some people, I tell them, like, you know, by all means, if you can do it, go ahead and play the original. If you like the characters enough and you want to get into the story and see how that unfolds, by all means do that. But there are some people that are unable to do it, like my girlfriend. She tried playing the OG after seeing me play Remake for so long. She's just, I can't do it. Like, I can't take the character seriously. I don't like the turn-based combat. And I'm like, it's fine. I totally get it. It's no big deal. But if you really do want, I honestly still do believe, like deep down inside, if you really do want to feel every aspect of like all the notes that they're hitting and all the things they're aiming for, then eventually playing the OG is something that I think some people should take the time to do. And if you have a capable enough, because you can play it everywhere, you can play it on mobile, phones, everywhere, you know. If you have a PC and the means to do so, I do recommend modding it. There's a lot of great community mods that greatly increase the experience of the game. They pretty much turn it into a borderline PS2 game with the new character models and textures, and they even have 60 FPS now. That 60 FPS mod, I was playing it last night on stream. It's really good. They even added voices too.
I'm actually considering that. I was even looking at the price of this. Like, it's like $12 or something like that on Steam right now, the price of the game. And then there's all of the mods. I was looking through Nexus before we started this even. I was like, oh, there's this Seventh Heaven thing that completely lets you add just a buttload of mods that they have in there. And I was like, maybe that'll do it, because I'm not a big fan of Lego Cloud. I can't. I understand that probably at the time, and for people that have a lot of nostalgia for it, like if I had nostalgia for it, if I had played at the time, it'd probably be super easy. But without the nostalgia, I find it very hard to go back and play it myself. Even though, like I said, I played a decent chunk of it, and I did like it. I thought it was all right. But, you know, it does get a little bit harder as you go through it. But
I highly recommend it. I could send you some videos on how to like the best mods to get running, and how to install them. And essentially, all you really need is like the 60 FPS mod, which looks amazing. You could also do like a 16:9 ratio without stretching the quality, which is really cool.
Oh yeah, I definitely would want that. No friggin' 4x3, thank you very much. It's kind of like long in the tooth for that.
And it's called Nino Style. That's the name of the creator. He created, I think, the best character models you could get for the characters right now, and it looks beautiful, like really, really good.
So as you were playing through the remake, like, what was the first thing that came to your mind as you start realizing, wait a second, this isn't a remake, this is something else? So, like, what went through your mind at that point in time?
I remember playing it and going through, because I had that thought before playing it, actually, because Max, dude, he had a chance to play chapter 2 of the game before it even came out, and he was able to describe the events of what's happening in chapter 2, which blew my mind. So in chapter 2, after the reactor like blows up and you're walking back to the base, Sephiroth shows up, which is a complete mindfuck, because you never see Sephiroth until like you leave Midgar. So for them to show, and we know that this game is going to be self-contained into Midgar, hearing that you get to see and like interact and talk with Sephiroth multiple times in Midgar, it was just like mind-blowing to me hearing somebody else explain that. But it was really like at that point when I saw it for my own eyes, holy crap, this is going to be different. They're doing very different things. These whispers like show up. I'm like, what is happening right now? Like, none of this was in the original, but I wasn't upset about it. I wasn't upset or bothered by it. Because FF7 is one of my favorite games of all time. It probably is my favorite game of all time. And then my favorite series is Metal Gear Solid. And playing that game as much as I have, I think having a new experience while still going through like a nostalgia trip ultimately was the best feeling for me, because I felt like I got to re-experience my favorite game of all time again for the very first time.
So you even preferred it?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, because like the community reaction to Final Fantasy VII Remake was obviously extremely divisive. Even before the game was out, I remember, because I'd be talking with people in my community, and these were people that had played the original, and they were telling me like, this one's going to be garbage because they're splitting it off. They just want to make a profit out of it. Oh my God, I can't believe how they're destroying the game. And I understand where a lot of these people are coming from. Naturally, they're protective of an IP that they really enjoyed over the years. I'm the same way with Star Wars. Like, if we get started talking about the sequel trilogy, I'm going to just completely choke somebody. But, so I can understand where people are coming from. But at the same time, where it's like, I don't really have a dog in the race, right? I never played the original at this point in time, so it didn't really bother me that much. I was like, I don't know. I'll check it out. I'll see what it's all about. But people were upset about it. And then when the game actually came out, people were even, again, there were the two fields. There were the people that were not happy about the fact that the game was split up into multiple entries. And then there's also the people that are not only upset about that, but also upset about the fact they changed the story. Everything is different now. I hate this. This is terrible. Like, what do you think about that? How it kind of divided the community along the middle?
It's very interesting because for me, I get the business angle. People are saying they're trying to like split it up and get profits, but I seeing the type of game and what it means to like the world, like Final Fantasy VII, it is like it's a very, very huge like pop culture entity that a lot of people in mainstream can recognize things from. Like, people see a Buster Sword, they know where it's from. They've seen it before. Some people have heard Sephiroth. Like, they know FF7 is like a huge deal. So I think like Square Enix, from a business standpoint, it's very smart on their part to split up this project while also trying to expand and do things in a way where not only are they just redoing the same exact thing that they did back in 1997, but with prettier paint, they're enhancing the overall experience and taking things that they've done over the years, like stuff from the compilation that was absolutely ass, like Crisis Core, Dirge of Cerberus, and
whoa, Crisis Core? You're gonna crap on Crisis Core? I can't believe you would do this.
I played the PSP version of that game. The reunion version is much better. What they did recently was so good. There are still issues I have with it, specifically the story related stuff. I feel like they really missed the mark on Crisis Core by trying to implement other characters to give Zack a deeper meaning with his story in the background, like with Angeal and Genesis. Genesis got way better in Reunion, by the way. Like, he was so... I couldn't deal with them in the original, but in my opinion,
I wasn't aware that Reunion was that different, because I played Reunion. I forgot to tell you, but I played Reunion at the start of last year. I think actually it was at the end of 2022. It was about when it came out. Because I saw some footage of it and I was like, this looks like something that I would be into. I'll check this out. I like the remake and whatnot. And I absolutely loved Crisis Core Reunion. I was like, bro, I love this game. This game's awesome.
You played the best version of it, honestly. Because on the PSP, you couldn't move the camera around. There was no camera. It was a fixed camera. You couldn't dodge roll properly against enemies, and there weren't any like combo strings. Like in Crisis Core, there's a combo string where if you do mid combo, you do an ability. It does boosted damage, which was such a great like quality of life implementation they did for Reunion. And in general, the game controlled a hell of a lot better. My main issue with it is like, you're selling this game to people that want to see, like, obviously the backstory of the Nibelheim flashback, what happens there, more introspective of like Sephiroth, get to know his character a little bit more. But I feel like they focused on Sephiroth and Nibelheim very little. Like, even when you get to Nibelheim, it turns into a slideshow, and most of the backstory stuff is done through emails, which is the weirdest decision in my opinion. You have one of the most like iconic, like biggest moments of the entire like, you know, story of Final Fantasy VII. It's the catalyst that started everything, really. And you're just gonna like literally the trek up the mountain. I was excited to see, okay, how are they gonna go up the mountain, and what are they gonna how are they gonna get to the reactor? It was literally 3 slideshows. Like, they show Zack defeating a monster, posing and taking a photo, talking about the materia fountain, and then they're in front of the reactor. And it was such a letdown back then when I first played it on PSP, and I wasn't expecting it to change in a Reunion, but you know what I mean? Like, it was still there. And then even man, you haven't played the original, so this part is kind of blasphemous in my opinion, but there's a point in the Crisis, I'm pretty sure you remember your playthrough. So do you remember when Zack and Sephiroth get to the reactor, and Sephiroth starts losing his mind because his mother is Genova, and he's basically putting 2 and 2 together that like his mother is like apparently an alien entity. He's an experiment baby that was constructed or whatever, and he's like losing his shit over it. In the original game, and even in Rebirth, he comes across that information on his own, and it's kind of like it's a really good breakdown to see him crumble. And it's not like an instant thing. It's like something that happens, it's like a slow burn over time, where he hears about this and goes and does research. Crisis Core inserted Genesis into there, so it was Genesis telling Sephiroth all this stuff instead of him like figuring it out. And it's the most, like, in my opinion, like shoehorn thing, because Genesis wasn't in the game for the last like 3 hours up until that point, and he literally just comes in there to do that and then leaves, and you don't see him again until after that. And it's just a really weird way, in my opinion, that they decided to tell the story and then change a very iconic moment, and in my opinion made it a little worse. Okay, that's my spiel on Crisis Core.
I see where you're coming from. It's just for
like in Star Wars, you know, the ending of episode 6, where they remastered and put the younger Anakin.
Oh yeah,
it's like, why? You know,
it is weird. Why would you need to do that? But all right, whatever. But yeah, I get what you're coming from. The thing for me is that I just liked the gameplay of Crisis Core so much that I was super addicted to it, because it has the same gameplay loop as one of my favorite games of all time, which is Monster Hunter, which is kind of, you go on missions and you get materials and stuff from the missions that you've done. It's kind of like that same loop. That's why I basically gelled with it as much as I did. But yeah.
Absolutely, yeah, it was the PSP era for sure. Like, you could tell it's the way it's designed, because I played Monster Hunter on PSP as well. It's very much a similar experience, even like Metal Gear Solid, like Peace Walker, now that you mention it, like another PSP game that was mission based, You complete these missions, you finish it, you get materials, and so on, so on. That's how you move on in the story.
Was Peace Walker the one that also had the Monster Hunter crossover? Because I know that one of the Metal Gears also had a Monster Hunter crossover in them.
I think it did, and it also had a Assassin's Creed like reference, and I think Snake got an Assassin's Creed outfit. No, he got an Assassin's Creed outfit in 4. But yeah, it was definitely the PSP one for sure.
Yeah. So going back to the remake, one of the things that a lot of people also complain about is the padding. Do you think that there's a lot of padding in the remake?
Oh, absolutely. And I think God, I was replaying it recently. I did a re-platinum where I went on a fresh account, brand new, normal, nothing unlocked, none of my end game broken builds, and went through the game, and I'm just like, Jesus Christ, like chapter 5, chapter 6 and chapter 8, half of 9 and chapter 17. Oh my God, like those are brutal. Like they extended the holy hell out of like moments that did not need to be extended. And some chapters are very inconsistent. Like one chapter will be long, like 30 minutes to go through. Like chapter 4 and 5 are very short, and then you got chapter like 8, which is ridiculously long because of all the side missions that you're forced into doing in order to get like the best dresses and all that stuff. So I definitely think the game had some padding issues. It started off great, and then in the middle is a little inconsistent, and then the ending, like chapter 17, is like god awfully long, and the drum inclusion is a whole new thing that wasn't in the original game. So a lot of like OG fans will agree with me there that the chapter 17 portion was pretty rough, which is ironic because it's one of the chapters that kind of did help catapult the channel in a way, because there's a lot of end game bosses in the VR missions that are in chapter 17 that I made videos on, and those did extremely well. And we, even till this day, we have people like that are stuck on those, and I'll go on share play with them and like help them finish it and teach them a few things. Really like cool. When we're live, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I remember some of those VR missions being pretty tough. Unfortunately, that was not like one of the best performing games in my channel. So I finished the game, and then after I finished the game, I was like, oh man, I'm gonna go into hard mode, do all these things, but the views were dropping. I was like, oh man, come on, man, don't freaking do me like that. So I never did some of the more challenging fights because you need to dedicate a decent amount of time to actually go through and learn the patterns and all of that stuff. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of frustrating. Hopefully Rebirth does a little bit better in that regard in my channel. You hear that, guys? Everybody, like button, subscribe. And also, there's going to be links to BltzZ's channel. Make sure to subscribe to him as well. I'm sure you're going to be doing guides for all of this stuff, right?
My brain's already churning. I've seen some things in the demos and stuff that we played recently. I've had the opportunity to play a early demo in October at TwitchCon. And I made some previews talking about like various things and some of the materia that I was able to find and like how you can manipulate them. And that's the biggest thing about FF7 is like its combat system revolves around the materia, and you can do some pretty wacky and fun builds, which will give people a different experience than most people will have, because of like if you take the time to really like understand and like see what kinds of like combinations you can come up with.
That was
like in
I'm sorry, keep going.
Sorry. No. I was gonna just say like in Remake, limit breaks was an issue. Like in the OG, you could always get a limit break easy, and in Remake, it's like very rare you'll get a limit break. Sometimes it'll only be like in boss fights. I found a way to manipulate it where you could use this materia called enemy skill that has self-destruct on it. So when you self-destruct, it deals like 9999 damage to the enemy and yourself. You would die normally, right? If there's a materia called subversion materia, which is green, and it has a passive that says prevents instant death. And it also, there's another materia called warding, which will boost an effect that it's paired to by 100%. So you pair those two together, you self-destruct, and you don't die, and you get an instant limit break out of it.
Damn.
It's like it's one of the funniest like videos that I put together. I was like, you could literally kill yourself to kill the enemy. Like it's amazing.
But that's one of the cool systems that I didn't realize at the time, just how in depth it was, that you would be able to combine all these materials in different ways and whatnot. And I feel like I never really properly utilized it that much on Remake, except maybe closer to the end. Because when I got to the end, I remember looking at the different swords that I had for Cloud and going, oh, this sword will be amazing if I want to do this thing. This one will be... And all of the swords are viable, essentially, for endgame, which was one of the things that I was, oh, this is really cool, because you can really just pick and choose. You use this one for magic. You use this one for damage or whatever, just melee damage and so on and so forth. And I was like, this is awesome.
That's one of the best, I think, RPG, what do you call it, like mechanics that they've ever introduced. And I think a lot of games should do that, where like if you get a new weapon, it doesn't immediately say the previous weapon is ass and you never use it again, which was an issue in the older RPGs. Like in FF7, the Buster Sword is a very iconic weapon, but once you leave Midgar, you get other weapons that are better than it, and you never look back at it. So now with this system that they have, they give you reasons to use it, because the Buster Sword is the most balanced out of all of them across the board, especially when you max it out. It's really good. And then you have other ones that favor more magic versus physical attack, which is like, I think, the best way that they could have done it.
Yeah, I agree. What did you think about the music? Because the music of the original Final Fantasy VII is so incredibly iconic, and with the remake, they went around, they remixed some of the stuff, because personally, I think it's one of the best parts of the game.
The music is something that Square Enix rarely misses on, and they of course knocked it out of the park with Remake. And I find myself like sometimes I'm like driving around the car and I just put on the FF7 like playlist, either the OG or the remake, and they did a fantastic job, in my opinion, like remixing some of the older tracks and giving you like mixes of like some of the songs they combined and stuff, and just like seeing all the different flavors they could really put into it. A friend of mine did bring up a really good point that I did not think of until he said it. He was like, I wish the game had more synth music, because the OG had a lot of synth music, and like for like one that comes out to mind is the Mako Reactor theme. The Mako Reactor theme is a little weaker in Remake compared to the OG, but that's okay. Like it's not a huge like deal breaker by any means, but it's just like those little things right there. So far from what I've been hearing in Rebirth, I like the changes that they've been making so far. They've been doing a really good job with the music, of course, but the music is such a huge driving force for myself and a lot of people, where like you can be put into an entirely different mood depending on which track comes on. And especially if like you got if you're part of like the nostalgia factor of playing the game in the OG, it's just hearing the new renditions and stuff, it really just does something different to you. You just feel alive.
the interesting thing about it is that even without that nostalgia factor, I kind of feel like you've heard these tracks in other forms of media, like sometimes in other creator videos and stuff like that. And they've just grown so iconic that even without having the nostalgia factor, you still hear like the basic battle theme. You're like, yeah, let's go. I'm ready to go. And for me particularly was the Airbuster. The first time I heard the Airbuster theme on the remake, I was like, holy crap, dude, let's just freaking go, destroy everything. I don't care. It's just like you blast that to max volume and it's absolutely phenomenal.
Hell yeah, man. I remember being disappointed that like a lot of the bosses before the Airbuster didn't have that song, because that is the boss song like the OG game. Okay. But it didn't really click with me that like, oh yeah, in the OG, you don't hear that song until you come across Airbuster. It's like the first time you hear it in the original game, because you fight the Scorpion Sentinel. It's not it's the regular like battle theme. It's not the regular battle theme. It's like the Mako Reactor theme. And you don't fight another boss up until the Airbuster. And then to see that they call it the Airbuster theme, I was like, oh, okay, I get it now. And like that's why, because like up until then in Remake, you fight like I think 3 or 4 bosses before the Airbuster, and it's kind of like, all right, it's just different renditions of the main battle theme. Like I kind of want the old, like, you know, what's it called? Still More Fighting is the name of the theme. Like, where is that song? And then it comes out and it just blew my mind. I wish I still had my original reaction of like when I played it. for that moment, because I think I remember like just, oh my god, no way, because I wasn't recording my face, it was just like audio.
Oh, okay. That sucks. Because yeah, when you get those initial reactions, they're pretty much timeless. This is one of the reasons why I stream most of my stuff on YouTube nowadays. Because like on Twitch, they delete your VOD like 2 months afterwards or whatever, and it gets really annoying. So for people that are thinking about playing Rebirth, I personally think that at the very least you should try to play Remake. Do you think that that's necessary as well? Or would you say, no, you can just jump into Rebirth, that's fine?
I would say you should definitely play Remake. I feel like what Rebirth does is it fully expands and enhances everything that was included in Remake. And I think that if you play Rebirth, you'll not want to go back and play Remake. I tried the other day, actually.
Yeah.
Like, even from the demo, like the quality of life changes, the way the characters move, and the way things feel. It feels insanely better. It's like almost like a completely different game in Rebirth compared to Remake, and going back to it can be a little rough. But I think right now, for a lot of people that are probably watching this, they actually have a promo I saw right now. It's like a twin pack thing where if you buy the twin package of FF7 Rebirth, you get Remake for free with it. So, and it's the best version of Remake too. It's the integrate version, which has the 60 FPS. And what's cool about, I personally like what I like what they did with that one is there was a materia called Synergy, and it was a blue materia in Remake. And when I first read it, I was like, oh, this kind of sucks. What it does is like you pair it to a specific magic skill, fire, ice, or whatever, and anytime your character that you're controlling uses an ability, the character that has Synergy will spam that fire attack or whatever. But in Remake original, it used an ATB bar and it used MP, so it wasn't that great. It was like, oh, this is like kind of pointless. Right?
Yeah, I remember that I looked at it and I was like, oh, this is really cool, because I thought it was going to be for free. I was like, oh, they're going to just use stuff for free. That's amazing. Then I was like, oh wait, no, actually no,
kind of sucks.
mind. Yeah, it's not great.
So in Remake Intergrade, which is the version that they're pushing everywhere, you can only get on PS5 and PC. They changed Synergy completely. It doesn't cost any resources at all. You can use it freely at will, and it's kind of broken, but that's what makes these RPGs fun, is like breaking shit. Yeah. So I definitely like find so much joy in using Synergy, because there's so many cool things you could do with it. Like Tifa can feed everybody ATB and just spam abilities over and over again, and she has an ability that refunds her own ATB. So if she keeps spamming that ability over and over again, and you know how to cancel it properly, like I have a video on how to do that, she can basically make Aerith into a giant turret where she just constantly just spamming fire at people, and it just looks hilarious.
Hello there. My apologies for interrupting your podcast listening experience. However, in this next section, me and Blitz talk about some very specific sections of the ending of Final Fantasy VII Remake. If you would rather not listen to this part of the conversation, as it contains some spoilers, you can skip over to 50 minutes and 30 seconds, as that will be outside of the spoiler range. If you're on the YouTube side of things, there will be a chapter that indicates when the spoilers end. Thank you very much, and I hope you continue to enjoy the podcast. Holy crap. So at the end of Remake, I don't want to get too deep into like spoilers and stuff, because things do get wildly different from the events that happened in the original. But one of the things that happens has to do with the Whispers, and I think that the Whispers are not going to be showing up in Rebirth, right?
They will. I've seen some in trailers. But it's a different type of function. So in Remake, they were trying to stop the canon events of the story from changing and keeping things going on the same destiny thread that it's supposed to. Like, if you remember, if you played like at the end, there are certain things that happen to characters, and then the Whispers will work against it to make sure that those characters don't get hurt and they're fine. That's essentially how they roll. They want to keep the game going as close to the OG as possibly as it can. And at the end of Remake, Sephiroth absorbed them. Like, he consumed and absorbed them and basically manipulated the party to defeat them so he could do that. So now in Rebirth, and I think this, and there are some media like that Square Enix has released called the Ultimanias, and it's pretty much confirmed that Sephiroth has absorbed and consumed the Whispers and uses them for his own bidding, right? So we won't see them showing up in the story when characters are trying to do different things. They will show up whenever, I guess, like Sephiroth
as agents
chooses
of Sephiroth
to make
now.
them. Yeah, exactly. So that's when we'll see them and how we'll be seeing them. And I know a lot of people are like irritated at them. They don't like them. Like some people are like, "Yo, those Dementors, get them out of here, bro." but I think they're an interesting story mechanic in a way, and it's going to be interesting to see how Sephiroth utilizes them, because I've seen in the trailers, like you can see there's whispers showing up in the background at certain moments. It's kind of like interesting
that also that those whispers almost work like a meta commentary for the people that didn't wanted the story to change, the people that were upset that they did changes. Like how do you feel about that stuff?
I at first, that was the big theory on Reddit. I remember Reddit, that's what, like, I guess opened my eyes to it, where they were saying how, like, oh, the devs did this to kind of like poke fun at the purists, the people that don't want things to change. But the devs came out pretty quick and said after that that's not the case at all. They would never disrespect their fans like that. It literally was something that they were trying, that has a big function for the story and the direction that they're trying to take it. But please be excited, and it'll all make sense later on eventually, that type of deal. So I personally, I didn't feel any disrespect by it, because I was enjoying like the changes. I love that we were experiencing something new, something different, and I was intrigued, like just being able to go into this and nerd out with my fellow like community members and other content creators, because none of us know what direction this story is going to be going now. And it's like, if the game was a full-on remake, like with no changes at all, we would, like, a lot of my videos still, like, you know, wouldn't be circulated, because it would just be done. People would just be like, yeah, there's no reason to talk about this. We know what's going to happen. We know what's
going to happen. Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. I always try to put myself in the feet of people that might have played the original. And I think of, okay, let's look at a game that I'm really familiar with and that I really love, which is like Dark Souls. And if the From Software team was to make a remake of Dark Souls, would I have preferred them to make the exact same game, but with prettier graphics, like they had back then? Or would I have preferred something like this? And I constantly find myself thinking, like, you know, if it was made by the same team, with Miyazaki at the helm, I think I'd rather have something like this, something that is actually different, so that I can have a brand new experience, because that's when that specific game's at its best, when you don't know what is happening.
Yes, you fully get it, dude. That's exact. I'm on the same boat with you right there.
So one of the things that we've seen is that Zack survives at the end of Remake. Even though we see him die at the end of Reunion, he supposedly dies, whatever, but in this new timeline, or whatever we're calling it, he's still alive. What do you make of that?
So from what I gather, right, Remake takes a lot of effort to hammer into the player that this world that like Cloud and them are in, Shinra's mascot is a stamp. Like, it's a dog, right? It's a dog named Stamp. It's a beagle. But when they show the scene of where like Zack does survive and he doesn't die, the stamp in his world is not a beagle. It's actually a terrier, which is a huge deal, because when the camera, it's a chip bag that flies by and the camera freezes on the chip bag and the bass drops, and it's like it's identifying to the player, oh, this is important. This is something they want you to like pay attention to, right? So that right there immediately told me, oh wow, like Zack is actually in a different, whatever you want to say, timeline, universe, different world, is what the devs have been saying, because Rebirth is all about the merging of worlds, and that's what Sephiroth keeps on saying. So like, when we defeated the Whispers at the end of Remake, it created an outlet for other worlds to have certain characters and different things occur and happen, like for example Zack surviving. So I think personally, in Rebirth's story, Sephiroth is working on a way to merge the worlds together to his benefit. What that benefit is, I have no idea yet. My thought process was, in the original game, Sephiroth is looking for the black materia. And if he merges the worlds, or if he has access to these both of these worlds, he can kind of get two black materias in that way, right? Because if it's two different worlds, there's two different of those existing things that he can manipulate and use. So maybe that is a angle that he's going for. It's really undecided yet, and that's the thing I love the most about it, is like we have no idea. We could just talk shit about it like this, and just maybe it'll be true, maybe it'll be the case, maybe not. So I definitely think Zack being alive is in a completely separate world, and they've showed us a lot of evidence, I think, to support that. And I know a lot of people are still going to be like skeptical and on the fence about it until they play the game, but that's the fun about it. The fun about it is like theorizing, theory crafting, and hearing what everybody else has to say, not discrediting what others have to say, of course. There are some people that get pretty toxic with that. Like, they get very angry and like, oh, you're wrong, you don't know what you're talking about type of thing. Like, no, like, it's literally just a theory, an idea. It might be 100% wrong, but hey, it's fun until, like, you know, we figure it out for sure.
That's actually one of the beautiful things when we're at this moment right before a game comes out, coming up with speculations about what could potentially be happening. I know that when it comes to Final Fantasy VII, I don't engage with that as much because I just don't have enough knowledge, right? But when something comes out of like a Dark Souls or a Monster Hunter, like, my speculation just goes off the chain. People are like, what the hell are you talking about? What do you mean flying mounts and what is going on? And I'll just like, yeah, dude, and it's going to be great. And it's full open world and all of these things and all of these different mechanics. And people are like, it's a 3-minute trailer, dude. Like, what are you doing? Right?
This is how I enjoy it.
Exactly. So I think that is really cool. And I think that some people need to surgically remove the stick they have up their asses and relax a little bit, because it's fun to have these conversations. So, yeah, very important thing. Zack or Cloud, who's the best protagonist?
Cloud.
God damn. Now we can't be friends
Cloud.
anymore. That's it.
Cloud for sure, man. Like, it's just Zack hasn't gone through his
hero's journey.
He has, in a way, but I don't think it was executed properly, because
there's not as much focus
sort of
on the story.
He was sort of just like in the middle of everything happening. Whereas with Cloud, you go through this whole like mental illness like arc, you know, like it's just this whole journey of like different themes that resonate so well with a lot of people, because Cloud fully feels realistic, and the things that he does and the things he goes through in regards to his own self-doubt and figuring out, like, you know, getting over shit in his head is very realistic to and resonates to a lot of people. I think personally, Zack is relatable to a certain extent, of course, but I think eventually he'll get to that point. Like, I'm saying what they've presented so far with Zack isn't as to the level of what they've been able to do with Cloud, and rightfully so. I mean, that's because Cloud has a full game, and you go through his entire journey through 3 discs, and you fully get that experience, and then they have like a movie after the fact, and
oh yeah,
you know what I mean?
I never
like,
watched that. I should watch that at some point to get some more context. I mean, I don't know how important that is to the story.
It is pretty important, actually. The dialogue, yeah, it's like 2005, 2006 dialogue, so it can get kind of rough, but the action set pieces are still like crazy. Like, it's definitely one of those movies that came out and changed up the way people look at like how CGI will be done and utilized in film and video games. It's funny that you say that. It's next week they're actually doing a re-screening where they're showing Advent Children in theaters all across the US. I actually have a ticket for me and my girlfriend to go see it on the 21st. So they're dropping that actually the same day the demo gets that update. Wow.
Yeah, of course. It's so that they can tie in all of that promotion and stuff, get that marketing material rolling. It's quite simple. But no, I personally prefer Zack like a million times. But then again, I didn't play the original FF7, so I can't understand. It just feels like when it comes to the remake, at least, Cloud is just this super pessimistic prick. He's just like, Oh,
Ooh,
I'm so tough. Oh, you have no idea
that's
what
the
I've been through. It's like, buddy, I played Crisis Core. I've seen what you've been through. It's not that bad. Get over yourself. That's kind of the way that I look at Cloud. Maybe I'm coming at it all wrong because I didn't finish the original FF7, but I just feel like E is way too negative about everything. Then again, Zack kind of sins on the opposite direction, but I'd rather be positive over being negative, basically.
yeah. There's a lot of deeper elements to that, and that's a lot. There are people I don't fall within this camp personally. I'm like, play whatever you want, enjoy, consume media however you want.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of people that believe that Crisis Core, playing it before the events of like 7 and seeing Zack, because like it's the biggest twist of FF7, right? It's like the big moment of the game, and the Crisis Core kind of like for lack of a better way to say, kind of ruins the impact of it in a way. There's a reason why Cloud acts the way he does in Remake, and it's explained beautifully in the original game when the that moment happens, and it's like a little later into Disc 2, really, when it occurs. And there's some really cool and interesting moments. Like there's a scene that I missed on my first playthrough when I played the original FF7, and I played it and I realized that I experienced it like I think my third time when I was younger, where I went back to the Shinra, like the Nibelheim mansion in Disc 2 later on in the story, and it plays out the ending of Crisis Core. And it's really mind-blowing, like, because like back when you're a kid, you don't like we go online. I was going on gamewinners.com, gamefact.com, and like looking up different like cool little Easter eggs and different things you could do.
Yeah, because back then we nobody did that almost. There was a very niche community that would do that kind of stuff. Yeah.
And it was mind-blowing to like, you've played this game before and you're playing it again, and there's new things in it that you did not experience before, specifically story narrative things. It's
so did you come across it organically?
I heard about it from a friend, did some research, and then I went and I did it. That's how I found it. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's still a really cool experience when you find those new things in a game that you've beaten like 1,000 times. I remember, like, I beat Dark Souls a bunch of times, and then eventually I'm like, wait, what is this thing? A new zone? Like somewhere down here, and there's all of these trees, and there's a dragon? Like, well, what is going on? So whenever you find something new in those games, it's always a very magical moment, I feel like.
Hell yeah, especially if you do it like you said, organically on your own. I've had that happen in other games, and it was like one of the best feelings ever. It just felt like everything that I loved about this game got enhanced even more.
So do you think we're going to be able to play as Zack, or do you think he's just going to be a side character?
I think we'll be able to play as Zack. Zack's a very important character for the story of FF7 and is a big fan favorite for a lot of people. I think we definitely will be able to play as him. And I was kind of able to tell, because if you look at some of the trailers, he has Materia in his Buster Sword. And there are certain moments where he doesn't have it, and there's some moments when he does. And it's kind of like, oh, okay, like that's most likely a tell right there to see, because like, it's like a gameplay thing, depending on what you have equipped or whatever, that you'll be able to play as him. So I think that's pretty cool. And I think we'll be able to play as him. Like, if he's going to play different than Cloud, if he's going to play as, like, closer to Crisis Core, I have no idea. I kind of hope he has his own style. Like, that'd be really cool.
So that we get to experience, like,
really nice
different Buster Sword play styles and whatnot. I think that would be absolutely awesome. I would even be like, oh, I just want to play as Zack. Like, I'm good. Like, you just have Zack join the party, and I'll just have him replace Cloud, and I'll be good to go. Just give me Zack instead. So I
love that it's existing right now in this time for people that are fans of either or character are able to like enjoy and consume this together. Like, there are some people like that would like, obviously I favor Cloud more than you favor Zack. There are some people that would like fight over this stuff.
Yeah, but that's the thing.
And unable to have like a conversation with it.
That's the thing. I feel like nowadays on the internet, there's just so much negativity because people are just ready to hate on everything. Like, the moment, this thing really upsets me, I'm going to, grill everybody for playing it, whatever. Like, for instance, a recent example, Suicide Squad came out. There's a bunch of people out there that don't like it. Personally, I don't care. I don't play the game. It's where I don't even engage in the conversation. Like, listen, I got nothing to say. The problem is that there's a lot of people that will say negative stuff just because they hear other people say negative stuff, and it just gets,
and haven't even played it.
Yeah, it's a weird situation we find ourselves in where everybody just needs to talk trash about something just to be a part of the conversation. So, yeah, but when it comes to this stuff, it's like whatever. I do think that it's interesting that both of them will. I mean, Cloud is definitely going to be playable, but potentially Zack is also going to be playable, and I'm going to be very interested to play Zack and see how that pans out. But I think it's cool that there's all of these things coming together in this one game. And the best part is nobody actually knows what is going to happen, despite the fact that people know what happens in the original Final Fantasy VII. And in Remake, a lot of the stuff happens similar. But then you have that jump-off point in a Rebirth. It's like, nobody knows what the hell is going to happen. We don't know. It's going to be insane.
Yeah.
So
the speculation process about all of this over the last 4 years since Remake ended has been exciting, but I am relieved that it finally gets some resolution in the next 2 weeks.
Has the community been going completely insane over these last 4 years then? Because I haven't followed the scene at all.
Yeah, it's been kind of tense often at times. I mean, everybody has their own vice towards FF7 of what they appreciate it for, whether it's like they love the characters like Zack or Cloud, or they argue and fight over ships, like, oh, I believe this character should be with this character, like my character ship is better. Like, that actually is a thing, and it's annoying. I had to deal with that on my own because actually, there was people.
I remember seeing a tweet recently. It just showed up in my timeline for some reason of somebody saying, I can't believe I have to explain that Zack doesn't love, or that Aerith doesn't love Cloud or something like. And I was like, wow, okay.
Dude, that's very tame to some of the other stuff that you could possibly see. I don't recommend getting into it. Like, personally, like, I enjoy the character. I've always been like, enjoy the characters how you want to enjoy them. Don't push things on other people. It's just a weird thing to do, in my opinion, personally. And that's unfortunately what some of the negative and toxic people within the shipping, because the shipping community is not all bad, right? Yeah. There are some really good like people. I have great friends within them too. But there are some people that are just insane. I can't fathom how some of these people like live their day and do these things like on a regular basis, or how they have the time to do any of this stuff too. Like, it just gets really ridiculous. I mean, I don't want to get into it too much, but there's one fan who's a big fan of like Jesse, who's a character that has a very small role.
Jesse is amazing. Game. What do you mean? That's me. I'm that guy. It's me.
Well, so that guy wants to ship Jesse with Cloud, and wants Aerith and like Tifa to die, and he sent like death threats. Before you say this is him, him is you. He sent death threats to the creators of the game and the writer. Last week, even like he was like making threats about the Yakuza. He's like, the Yakuza have been paid. You have 24 hours to delay the announcement of the game and make an announcement that Jesse is alive. And Twitter fried his ass real quick. He actually got all 4 of his alt accounts banned.
Jesus Christ. Why are you so like, I love Jessie. I thought Jessie was awesome in the remake.
Yeah, I think she's a great character, dude. Like, it's just, this dude is just going to wild extremes.
Dude, you don't want that. But that is insane. So one of the things that we saw in that recent trailer before they secretly announced the demo, the very well protected demo that nobody was expecting to come out immediately after the showcase. In that showcase, they showed a ton of mini games. Like, it almost seemed like a Yakuza game. You've mentioned the Yakuza, so this just reminded me of the Yakuza franchise, right? Because they have also a zillion mini games in their thing, right? Like, what do you think about that? Did the original have as many minigames as they're showing there? I mean, not at this scale, right?
Right, not at this scale, yeah. Like, I want to say they confirmed over 30 for Rebirth, which is mind-blowing, bro. Like, the card game, I was watching some videos that people, like, were able to demo of the card game that they have in it, man, and I'm just ready to consume and, like, dive into it myself. But the mini games, I think it's, like, one of the biggest things that Final Fantasy has been missing. for a long time. Like with 16, unfortunately, like there wasn't really much to do within its like world, and it kind of just made it kind of made the process of going through it not as enjoyable as previous Final Fantasies like were. But I feel like Rebirth is aiming to hit those notes that made Final Fantasy a really household name that people enjoyed and loved, but do it all over again in 2024 with a great way that they're like going about it. And I'm excited for it because, man, like they're doing some really cool stuff. And it's like, not only that, they're taking inspiration from things like The Witcher, where like they're making it so that the side missions aren't as like, oh, just find these 3 cats and that's it. That's the side mission right there. Like now they're actually doing things where you're a side mission to travel across a specific region to meet up with certain characters. So you're doing various things, and there's like a buddy system now where like on specific side missions you'll take one character with you, and you and this character will have like a give and take back and forth dialogue moment with it. And it's like that's not what that's not what Remake had at all. That's not what like the series has had in a long time. And I think that it's a really good idea on their part to really just knock it out of the park with just losing yourself within the world and giving you a constant amount of things to do that occupy your time and make the world feel fun to travel in. And that's the best part about it. It's like if your world isn't fun to travel in and like do things in, people aren't going to enjoy it as much.
Yeah, the remake, the side quests were much more on the traditional side of standard MMO side quests of just go here, kill this thing, go here, do that. With the exception of like the side quests where you would go on to fight bosses, like for instance, what's his name, Don Corleone's arena and stuff like that, where you get to fight that vicious hell house. Jesus Christ. That thing was atrocious. But, you know, with the exception of that, most of those were pretty bog standard. I actually wasn't aware that Rebirth was changing that significantly because, like I said, I haven't been following it as closely. But that's cool, especially with you quoting something like The Witcher, which is kind of like the gold standard when it comes to side quests. Like, oh, expecting great things now. They better deliver. Otherwise, I'm coming back to have another conversation with you. But also, on the topic of 16, because, like, listen, I'm going to defend my man Yoshi-P to my dying breath. How dare you besmirch this man?
I love Yoshi-P.
No, but, like...
That man is a treasure. I got to meet him, and he told me I smell good.
Oh, God damn it. I'm so jealous, dude. It's like...
It made me feel great.
I always mention this. There's 3 people that I always wanted to interview in the gaming industry. One of them is Miyazaki. I've already done that like twice. The other one is Yoshi-P, and the other one is Ryozu Tsushimoto from Monster Hunter. But I've only gotten to interview Miyazaki so far. I need to interview the other 2.
Me and Fighting Cowboy met Yoshi-P at the same time, and he said the same thing. Like, you know, Yoshi-P is one of those devs. Like, he met Miyazaki, and he really wants to like meet Yoshi-P, and he's excited for it. And we met him in like a pretty funny way. Me and Fighting Cowboy were invited. We were like one of the 5 content creators invited from the US to go to London to play 16 early. And we're walking from our hotel to the event, and it's pouring rain. Like it's London, but like none of us Americans are prepared. So none of us had an umbrella. So we're running through the rain. We stop at this little like shop. We get like ponchos, and we walk to the event was at the... Dang, it was right by the London Tower, actually. The event was over there, and it was like this really cool, like old school, like castle, and they kept it pretty much the same. You could see like where the barracks and the armories and stuff were, but like one of the things to the side, one of the buildings to the side was where they reserved a 16 demo. So they told us that like the UK content creators are playing right now. We're gonna play tomorrow, but we can go today to like meet with them and like talk to the devs and like Yoshi-P and stuff. So we're coming in, and we're like all soaking wet. I'm like fixing my hair like in the mirror, right, and dusting off my clothes. All I hear is like heavy boots and like keys jingling walking behind me, and I kind of like I turn around, and it's Yoshi-P. And he's like and he's just like walking out of the bathroom right next to like the mirror that I was at, and Fighting Cowboy looks at me, he's like but they pulled him to the side, and they let us talk with him for a little bit, and it was pretty cool. Like he had his like translator and stuff, and we got to like shoot the shit with him. It was a really fun experience.
Yeah, he seems like he's a real genuine dude. I'm not sure if you've ever seen some of the live letters on 14 and stuff, but they're just like super
Hmm.
down to earth when they're showing their stuff, and I really like that. I appreciate that.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I just wanted to point out, like you said, that in 16 you don't get a lot of mini games. I just feel like 16 was more about being an action game than necessarily being a traditional RPG, which is kind of what
Hmm.
people wanted, I guess. But I was always under the impression, like, no, this is more like a Devil May Cry game than anything else. And usually in those games, you don't necessarily want it to last too long because it's a very intensive game, right? So
Yeah.
if they
Well,
drag on
the,
for too long, it can become problematic, I feel.
the thing for me is like with 16, the side missions have a lot of great backstory and lore within them, but they can kind of like it's kind of like the tasks and stuff of what you
Yeah.
got to do. It
They're
is
not
kind of
super
like
interesting. Yeah,
no,
I
no,
agree.
but the lore behind it is very interesting, and I
Yeah.
feel like had they cut down on at least half of those and like retain like some of the really like higher quality ones, I think the game would have like uh would have hit really strong in like the world aspect of those things, because it just I understand like they never said it's going to be an open world game. It's just going to be zones that you roam around through and experience things in that way. But I wanted to kind of like interact with the world a little bit more, not necessarily mini games and stuff, but through other through other elements that Final Fantasy has done before in that
Yeah.
way, you know.
Yeah, I get it. So another thing that I wanted to ask about what you just mentioned is why not just use Triple Triad? We already have a card game. Why do they have to come up with another one? We have a card game. We have Fort Condor. I'm not sure. Is that coming back, by the way? I think that's coming back as well. I think I saw some of that
Yeah.
stuff in there. Yeah. But it's like we already have a card game. Why do I have to learn another one? Like I already had trouble learning Triple Triad. God damn it.
So Triple Triad is one of my favorite like card games of all time, and I think it's such a great addition to like what they did in Final Fantasy VIII, and I'm looking forward to like them hopefully one day remaking 8 so I could experience it again. But I think the reason for that is because since 14 is its own entity, but it's also a celebration of all the Final Fantasies, right? Like they have a lot of things from every single one in there. That's why Triple Triad exists in 14. But I think other than that, Triple Triad's like an exclusive like 8 thing, and they wanted to do something new for like 7, because like 9 also had a card game too called Tetramaster, which functioned in a similar way, I think, that Triple Triad did. I can't remember it too much, but Queen's Blood though, it's pretty dope. I think people will really like it when they get a chance to like dive into it.
I haven't seen it at all, but I'll have to learn that one too. I also had to learn how to play Gwent so that I could play it in Witcher. And then at one point, I remember that I played Gwent more than I did Combat because it's just like, hey, can I
that.
fight this guy in Gwent? Okay, let's go.
That's what I'm looking forward to in Rebirth. I hope we can do that. I hope we can just like every town we got people we could square up with in Queen's Blood, and it's a continuous thing. That's just and what I like what they've said is that you can play it from the very beginning, but you don't have to, because like it's not a forced thing.
Yeah.
And that eventually, as you get through the game, you can experience everything at your own leisure. You're not like hard pressed to, oh, you got to do this now. And that's what I like the direction that they're taking with the side missions, that they're never locked off. You could just leave a side mission or a bunch of them off in a town and just come back later and do them.
That's a really good thing as well. Like I remember hearing that at some point during their showcase, that stuff is not going to get locked off, because that was one of the issues that I ran into with 16, was that I knew that there were some missions that could get locked off, but I didn't know which ones. So every time Sidequests would come up, I was going to do them all regardless, but I was like, oh, I have to do it now because it can become locked off later.
It's kind of like a fatigue,
Yeah.
Like it's like forcing you.
Yeah, so I like the fact that they don't force you to do that stuff, and that's just like optional. I'll also be curious to see how they scale, because I also don't want them to be like trivial combat wise. If I went off and now I'm 30 levels higher, now I came back, and these quests I just one shot everything,
I think I'm gonna be playing the game on dynamic difficulty, because off from the beginning you have easy, normal, and dynamic. And dynamic is sort of like a in between of like normal and hard, but the enemies scale with your skill and like your.
I wasn't even aware that was a thing. I'm definitely playing it like that then. Hells yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So
is there
I can't wait to see what hard mode is going to be like.
Yeah, is there going to be a hard mode as well, like in 7
Yes.
afterwards? Okay.
Yeah.
The one
I just don't know if it's going to function the same way where like benches don't give MP or like how is that going to work?
The one thing that annoyed me about hard mode is that I kind of wish that when you go through normal and then you go through hard, I kind of wish that the side options would not give you meaningful rewards or something. Or I don't know, figure out a way that I don't have to do side missions anymore.
Yes.
I don't want to do side missions when I'm doing a hard mode, okay? It's just not fun. Like, I'm going through that in 16 right now because I haven't even played the DLC. I bought the DLC, haven't even played it because I was like midway through Final Fantasy mode or whatever. And I'm like, well, now I have to do all these side missions because they give rewards. And eventually I want to get like the super sword or whatever it is that you can get with that thing. So, yeah, I guess I have to do these side missions, skip every single cutscene. And it's like, really, if your thing has that New Game Plus, those missions should just be, here's some gold or something and nothing else. Or you don't even have to do them. They're auto-completed, something. Just let us do the more meaningful stuff that is more interesting. So I'm hoping that they look into that because I don't want to be doing 200 side quests when I get the hard mode again. It doesn't seem like a fun prospect. I don't know about you.
No, I know exactly what you mean because like Remake is still like fresh in my mind because I just did like that platinum rerun and I had to do the same thing and I'm like, I got the trophy for completing all the side quests, right? On like the second or like halfway through the second run. But then when I got to the end and I'm like doing the end game stuff, I'm like, wait, why don't I have enough SP to max out like my weapons? I thought I would have gotten it by now. It turns out that you had to redo the side missions in certain chapters to get specific companion books to get like the final SPs. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
And thankfully enough, like I'm skilled enough within the game. It created some builds where like I didn't have to get those the final skill trees, and I was able to just complete all the challenges without it.
Yeah.
So that was pretty fun.
So one of the things that I'm wondering is Final Fantasy VII is pretty much a linear game. And Final Fantasy Remake is also a linear game. The 7 Remake is also a very linear game. You start and it finishes at the exact same point, no matter what decisions you make along the way. You might have some slight variations here and there, but mostly it's linear. Do you think that Rebirth could potentially not be linear and maybe we would even have different endings and stuff like that?
I would love for them to be able to do that, like for different endings and outcomes depending on like the decisions and choices you make. But I personally don't see them doing it because I haven't seen them do it in before, and until they prove otherwise, then I don't know. Like I would love, honestly, for them to do that, but I just can't see them doing it. Fingers crossed it does go to that way, you know. That they eventually figure it out, but the story specifically has to go in a certain way, and I don't think that they'll tie various elements that isn't side content related or like side, I guess, story related into various things that you can do. I've seen some pretty cool stuff though that I think a lot of people are going to be excited that have played Remake and probably never go back and like want to touch Remake ever again because of like how much better Rebirth does various things.
We'll see how that pans out. But yeah, I'm super excited about Rebirth. I'm assuming that you're super excited about Rebirth as well. I'm very curious to see all of the things that we're going to be able to do. But beyond Final Fantasy VII and Rebirth, like this year has been one hell of a year when it comes to other video games as well. Like we've had pretty strong start. What have you been playing?
Palworld and Granblue, and I'm just now about to start playing Persona 3.
Damn, you also played Palworld. How'd you feel about that? Like that game just took everything by storm.
That game, I love that game, bro. Like, that game is so good. I can't tell you the last time I've played a game and enjoyed it and not cared about having to make content for it. And it's like a special thing in this business. Like a lot of people think like, oh, like what you do is
you just play video games all day.
Easy. You just play video games. But it's not really that. It's much more difficult than that. We have to create the content and we have to come up with the ideas and all that stuff. But There are some games where I'm like, I feel guilty playing and not recording, but Palworld's not one of those. It's one of those games I could turn on and just, I could play with my friends. And I have made content on it. I've made 3 videos on them and they did pretty well. I'm waiting for like the PvP update to, before I make like more content on it. And I'm pretty sure I'll dive deeper into it, but I've been watching like some of the videos, on them. Tagback TV, I think, is another channel that does it. I know Fighting Cowboy has dived deep into that too. I know you got some videos on it as well. I've been consuming a lot of you guys' like stuff for it and just enjoying it on my own time. But
it's been an interesting game where basically they just said, hey, let's just put a bunch of cool stuff together and boom, here's a video game. We don't care.
Have you messed with the breeding? Have you messed with the breeding system yet?
No, I don't really do the breeding stuff. I mostly just ran around and hunted Pokemon, and I was kind of like the base builder. So I'm like, oh, let's make this pretty, let's make it look nice and whatnot. And then they're like, oh,
we need architect.
Yeah, we need to make some breeding facility. I'll make the breeding facility. Don't worry about it. Put all this stuff together. Don't even worry about it. Let's put the pals to work and all of that. That was an amazing game. What a hell of a start of the year, pretty much. But Granblue was a game that I've been following for a long ass time. I don't know how long you've been following that one, but I noticed that you were like super interested in it as well.
I heard about it when it like around the time when they were first announced, and I remember hearing that they had like development issues with
Platinum Games.
Platinum leaving, yeah, and that was about it. And like recently, I was like getting into like, you know, okay, I'm gonna check it out. I was like a couple of weeks before the demo came out, and the demo blew my mind with how much replayability it had.
Yep.
And it was so funny to the point where like, because I'm a Narmaya main, I love Narmaya. She's like,
of course, and everybody else in the world.
I get her so well, bro. It's, her kit is so, the stance swapping, it's just, it feels so satisfying. Her, Yodara, and Zeta are the 3 characters that I put a lot of time into in the demo. And the full game right now, I have Narmaya at end game. I still have like 3 proud missions left to finish before I can start farming the what's the end terminus
weapons.
Yeah. So I can start farming those.
You're gonna hate that part, by the way.
I heard it's like RNG, right?
It is. Yeah. I killed the final boss 20 times. Didn't even see a single weapon drop. It was great. I loved it. My friend had like 5 weapons just making fun of me. He's just like, oh yeah, I got my 5th weapon. I was like, must be nice. I haven't seen them drop at all. It's miserable.
You gotta run it. You gotta run with him and bum off of his luck.
Yeah, exactly. But no, I've picked up a bunch of those since. But yeah, it's a really good game. I did not expect it to be as good as it was. But the only problem is that I find it a little bit on the easy side. But it's because that it's one of those games that is also designed to be broken. So you're designed to become overpowered and eventually just become completely busted and kill everything. And to top it off, I started the game playing Eugen and is like, oh, okay, well, I'll just kill everything and it's fine.
I haven't played as him yet. The only range character that I had touched was Rackham.
Yep.
And most of my experience with Rackham was from the demo. But with Narmaya, I've got her pretty kitted out. I got a bunch of Tyranny 5 pluses. Well, you just need 2 of those maxed out, and then right now I'm just like consuming getting as much damage caps as I can. I think I only have 1 damage cap 5+, and the rest are just like regular 5s. You need
so many of those. Like you need that at least 4 of those maxed out on every character to really.
What is it? 69, I think, is like 65, the max level on it, right?
65.
Okay.
Yeah.
65. So I'm overcapped on it right now because I'm in a weird spot where I don't want to drop one and then boost another one because they're only 5s. I only want to boost the pluses.
Yep, I get you. I mean,
so I'm in that. I like min-maxing. Like that's one of my favorite things about like MMOs and like these types of games. So Granblue's got me by the balls for that.
Yeah, it's like that's one of the reasons why my friends would be upgrading their sigils, and I'm like, no, I don't need that. I only upgrade 5+. If it's not 5+, it's not getting upgraded. I don't care. I'll have an extra one. Right. Yeah, that's the way to do it. You got to optimize your materials, man. Because we have less time to grind than most people because we also have to be making the videos. So we can't grind as much time.
Yeah, man. And like I've always struggled to do multiple genres of content. Like I get this like, I wouldn't say tunnel vision, but I get like hyper fixated on like, okay, this video, this game, I'm gonna pump out a bunch of videos for this, and then I'm gonna start focusing on that. I don't know how to, like, I'm still working on being able to balance it, right, between like multiverses, when that was like up on and popping. That actually is what like shot my channel over 100K, because at one point we were the biggest channel for multiverses. Unfortunately, it, you know, died.
Yeah, didn't they close that down because it wasn't a beta or whatever? Or am I confusing it with another one?
No, you're right. You're right. Yeah, it was beta, so they closed it down because server issues were introduced with their updates that they've been doing, and they couldn't fix it without it being offline. So they took the game, put it on a hiatus, and I've heard that it's coming back this year, closer to like summertime. So I'm looking forward to that. But I'm just trying to get back into the groove where last year I was uploading FF7, Final Fantasy 16, and Resident Evil 4 videos all at like the same time. And it's just been like, it's something that I admire that a lot of like you guys do, like you do that, Cowboy does, like I don't know how you guys like do it, but it's definitely like a workflow thing, and I got to get better at that, and I'm just constantly striving to that point.
Oh, I struggle every day. Like, to give an idea, just yesterday I came in here and I just sat here for like 4 hours trying to do a video and got nothing done. So I didn't play video games, didn't do anything entertaining, just sat here trying to record a video for 4 hours and then went to bed. It is miserable sometimes. It's like, oh, let me see if I can. No, never mind. It's over. The time has gone by and I can't do anything, and this sucks.
I've been forcing myself to do my stuff live, like recording guides or like making news videos or updates, like doing it live, and just like, because like the chat likes it a lot because they get to see like the behind the scenes element of it. Like, oh, how did you edit like that to make it look like this? Like, I swear it looks so different like when it was live. We've even done like there's some state of plays or some showcases we'll watch, and right when they end, I'll stay live and edit it while live, and they'll see me editing it, and they're like, a lot of people are like, yo, you edit quick, and I'm like, bro, that's how this business is. You gotta be quick sometimes.
Listen, if you're editing, you're still behind, man. I don't even edit anymore. I just prepare everything ahead of time that I can boom, 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 put everything together without even editing, if possible. It's not always possible. Sometimes you gotta edit. Mm-hmm. Yeah. A lot of times I even try not to edit, but yeah.
Yeah, it works out. It works out sometimes. Sometimes it doesn't. Like reactions, obviously, like there's no editing for that. You just clip the moments that you need and then render that out. But like, if I'm talking, like I'm doing like a guide content, I do a lot of zooms to show like what I'm talking about. Like I'll zoom in on this thing instead of saying, oh, you see that thing on the bottom right? And like I do it a lot for Granblue, like showing like the combo finishers. Like, okay, see how that procs now? Like after you do this move, that's when you're able to like hit it. So doing those live, I feel like have been helping me with getting a backlog of videos prepared. So this way I could just throw them out later on and upload them when possible.
Yep. I've done that in the past and sometimes, and it is a good way of going about it. But yeah, that was pretty much all the topics that I had. Thank you very much for your time, for coming over to the podcast, talk Final Fantasy VII Rebirth with me. I really appreciate it because, like I said, I'm a Final Fantasy VII noob, and it's really cool to get ready and get prepared for Rebirth, which is coming out 29th, I believe. 29th, right?
Yeah.
That's the worst
about 2
part.
weeks from now.
I'm not even going to be here when the game comes out. I hate myself. I'm gonna miss the launch window by like a couple of days, unfortunately, because I have another thing that I'm gonna be doing.
Taking a trip?
Yeah, I'm taking a trip.
Oh man. Well, if I was in your position, I would have had to bring my PS5 with me, but I think you'll be good. You'll come back, and you know, I hopefully YouTube is kind to you with the algorithm and doesn't spoil you on things, because there's a lot of people that'll be like really posting like spoiler shit.
Oh yeah, people just post straight up spoilers on thumbnails and stuff, which really friggin' sucks. I can't stand when people do that, but you know, it is what it is. But yeah, I'll probably because you're gonna finish it way before I do, so I'll probably just hit you up when you finish. Like, hey, was it any good? How'd you like it? Like, was it everything you wanted and whatnot? And do a follow up.
Yeah. I'll definitely I don't do review videos too often, but for this one I'm definitely gonna do one. And it's gonna be one of those things where the review comes like in middle March or something like that.
Yeah, because you want to soak
consume.
it up. Yeah, you want to soak it up. That's gonna be me like next year with Monster Hunter Wilds, because that's, you know, my thing is Monster Hunter, Dark Souls from software games, that type of stuff. And in 2025, when Wilds comes out, it's like, forget that I exist, everybody. Actually, even this year, when Dragon's Dogma 2 comes out, you can forget that I exist as well. It's insane.
Just consuming. I'll definitely play some Monster Hunter Wilds with you. I haven't played the previous one, World, and any of its expansions.
You missed out so much. Look, the Return to World campaign's going on. You should check it out. It's a good time.
Okay. Yeah. Is it crossplay? Or is it like a similar Granblue situation?
No, it's like Granblue. Yeah. You can only play with people on the same platform.
Do you play on PC?
I've been playing on PC for the Return to World. Initially, I played on PS5 because it came out on not on PS5, PS4, because it came out on PS4 ahead of PC. But now everything is everywhere, so I just restarted a brand new save on PC. Yeah.
All right. Cool. I think I'll do the PC route then. This way,
yeah,
it'll be easier.
The way to do it. But anyway, that's going to be it for today's episode of Cast. Guys, once again, remember, I'm going to have links to BltzZ's channel. Make sure to check him out, subscribe, and bell notification icon. All of your Final Fantasy needs will be fulfilled on his channel 100% for sure. And if you guys enjoyed the episode, hit the like button, subscribe, bell notification icon, all that jazz. And we'll see you guys in the next one. Go ahead.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. Bye-bye.